I will tell you this. I have not been excited, and maybe excited is a stretch, but I've been happy about a Giant coach since the early days of Tom Coughlin.
Welcome to True Blue with Mike Viv and LPG.
Two guys are big-time guys. This is great. Thank you.
Oh, big time. And we got big-time Sid on the show today.
Hey, well, let's do it.
Anytime that we could get Sid Arthur Rosenberg,
thank you,
in the house,
it's a big deal.
It's an honor.
You know, we were trying to get Sid for a couple of weeks, and I feel like it's probably better to get you this week than last week. Give you some time to calm down, recalibrate, get your Eli jersey on, which I love.
Oh, the Trump thing, yeah. No, the Trump thing is over now. Yeah, I've moved on, and the Giants are in the race. So, yeah, this is a perfect time to do this. So, I've worn this jersey all year.
The Giants have come back to relevance, back from the dead somehow.
Yeah.
Actually,
well, let's do it, boys.
I'm not so sure that's an Eli. I think it's a Brad Van Pelt knowing Sid.
You know, that's funny. I love Brad fucking Van Pelt. I love him. That line back in core with Brian Kelly and Harry Carson, guys like Andy Hedden and Byron Hunt. Those guys were great. I mean, Lawrence is the best of all time, but those guys were great. Love Brad Van Pelt.
It's funny you say that because any one of those guys that you just mentioned, from Hedden to Hunt to all of them, even Bobby Jones, would have been starters for teams where the Giants, they were backups.
Oh yeah. Hey, listen, we got Johnny Cooks from the Colts. That guy was a big time player. I mean,
Johnny Cooks.
You know, shit. We always had a nice white middle linebacker, Gary Wiesens or Steve Diassi. We were great with that shit. We were great.
That's funny.
I can't even tell you two linebackers on the Giants now, so I'm still stuck in that era.
Did you ever?
That's okay.
You know, did you ever go see the Giants? I mean, you're such a big fan. Besides camp and stuff like that, did you ever go to their, team hotels or
I did all that.
Night before games and stuff like that to meet up with them? Chat?
No, that I didn't do. I mean, look, over the years now, we haven't started this yet, right? So, but over the years, I've become really friendly. Lawrence and Phil, really friendly with those guys, really friendly. I mean, personal shit. But I wasn't the type of guy to, wait in the parking lot or meet him at a hotel. Like, you do stuff like that. That's what makes you fucking great.
Yeah, Mike. That's you, Mike. That's all you, Mike.
Wait a minute. Who was he?
I didn't do that.
Who was he pointing?
I didn't. I think both.
No.
I thought about it. Believe me, but I don't know why I didn't. To be honest, it wasn't. I'm just as a rabid fan as anybody else. But no, I didn't do that type of stuff. But funny again, as my career has developed, I became so friendly with these guys that now it's a completely different type of relationship. But no, I didn't do that.
That's a sick point because I did do that, and I was at the team hotel at the Woodcliff Lakes Hilton, about 2 miles from Taylor's house. And I did love all that stuff. And like you, thank God, license plate guy became this thing. And now I wouldn't think about doing something like that because of the relationship that I built.
Right.
Totally.
No, totally. That's
you
funny.
Grow up, it's called maturity, Joe.
Yeah, I guess so.
Eventually.
We're on with Sid Rosenberg. I mean, where to start with you, Sid? I have a couple things I definitely wanted to get with you. One is, as much as you can, we're going to definitely get into an LT story or two. I know that you have a lot of long relationship with LT. See what you get there. He was at our roast last year. Did great. You were sitting right in front of him too. The guy was hysterical. Artie actually made a joke about you. You remember, right? Artie
I did. Artie made the reference that I'm the only guy that did more coke than he did, which is not true. Just, but it's close. It's close. And Lawrence is there too, so it's really close. But that was a great event. You guys, for O.J. Anderson, it was it's funny. I remember that night very vividly because I went to watch What's Happening live on the Bravo channel right afterwards. A friend of mine was on that show. So I ran out of your event and went to that event. But your event that night was great. Artie Lang was great. LT was great. OJ was great. Even Larry Holmes was good. And you two guys specifically were great. You were great.
Appreciate it.
There you go. That and definitely Samir, I want to actually touch on, let's start with Craig Carton. So you have a history of Craig. He's back. When you first started with him, what was kind of the vibe? Because I didn't listen then, but you guys were kind of the first, Craig Carton's experience on radio up here. So what was your relationship with Craig, and what was your impression of him and then?
Well, we actually worked together for the first time, guys, back in 1998. I was at an internet startup company down in Florida called Sportsline USA, which, by the way, is now CBSSports.com. And my partner's name was a kid by the name of Scott Kaplan, who now works out in San Diego. And we started the very first ever internet sports show, first ever. And I got to tell you something, guys. We made deals, Sportsline USA, big cash stock deals with everybody from Michael Jordan to Tiger Woods to Shaquille O'Neal to Pete Sampras. And part of their obligation was to go on the internet radio show with me and Scott once a week. We had 7 listeners, 2 servicemen in Japan, and 1 guy. It was amazing. And make a long story short, we started to build this internet radio division as it became more popular and people knew about it. And there was a guy in Philadelphia who got fired from his job. And he got fired from his job because he said that Eric Lindros was not injured, but rather drinking shots at a bar, which he saw the night before a playoff game or something like that. That guy turned out to be Craig Carton. So Craig came down to Florida and he worked on the same internet radio station as Scott and I, and Craig and I became friendly, very friendly. Let me fast forward 2 years later. Scott and I get the job at 102.7 W1EW FM in New York doing the Sports Guys show. Only morning sports because FAN had Imus. Okay.
Yeah.
And Scott and I, we had success in Florida and in Kansas City and in Vegas. It didn't happen in New York. So he left. They asked him to leave. And they put on a bunch of people with me to try out to replace Scott. We had John Riggins one week. We had Jay Glazer one week. And one morning I walked by my boss's office and I saw a resume on his desk and it said Craig Carton. And I said, I know that guy. I worked with that guy 2 years ago down in Florida. He's actually pretty good. Let's give him a shot. Now, Craig hasn't really said this, but I got him hired in New York, his first radio job. Yeah.
I knew something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And sure enough, Craig Carton came in and we worked together. They added a third guy, a comedian by the name of Eddie Ift, who was a nice enough guy, but that didn't work. Then they added another guy from the Rocky show on WPLJ, Blaine Ensley. So it was 3 of us. Long story short, Craig and I worked together for about 6 months. The year was 2000, W1EW. We were great friends early on. It was a disaster by the end. I hated his fucking guts. He hated my guts. And he told me one day in a meeting right before the end of my contract, why don't you just go to WFAN? That's all you want to do anyway. And I said, you know what? If Toronto's going to hire me, I'm going to fucking do that. And I left that day. And sure enough, W1EW did not renew my contract. I was heading back to Florida. I thought my New York career was over when, in fact, FAN contacted me and said, hey, I like what you did in the mornings over at W1EW. We're going to give you a shot. So I went to FAN, and Craig Carton went to NJ 101.5 or something in New Jersey.
Right.
And we fought with each other over the years. He would badmouth me. I'd badmouth him. And then we started to patch things up when he got the job at WFAN, probably closer to 2015.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think would he have gotten that job if you didn't point to the resume and talk about it?
I don't know. It's a great question. Look, Jeremy Coleman was the program director. He didn't know dick about sports. So he wasn't familiar with Craig. I think when he combined the fact that Craig had some real experience in Philadelphia and New York and the fact that I knew the guy, I think that really helped. So my answer is probably no. Maybe he may not have gotten that job. But look, to his credit, he turned everything around. He got to New York. He was a huge success. I will tell you guys, right about the time he got arrested, he and I became very close again. We've had some similar problems, obviously. They've both been well documented, very publicized. And we kind of leaned on each other. And we got real close, closer than people would even know. We did contact each other a little bit through email when he was in prison. And I was one of the first people I think he called after Boomer Esiason when he got out of prison. And we still talk now quite a bit. I've always congratulated him when he started last week with Evan and when he first got the job. So he and I have come full circle. At this point, we both respect each other. I would even say we're good friends. And I'm happy for Craig. I think everybody deserves a second chance, and I'm happy he's getting his. I think he'll make the most of it.
That's awesome.
You were on I saw you on a HBO documentary with him, right?
I was in that documentary. Yeah. No, listen, Craig was in prison when we shot that documentary. They went to a small space in an apartment down in Soho, guys, in Lower Manhattan. And I remember doing my radio show at WABC and heading down there after my radio show. And as I was coming in, Jerry Recco was actually leaving. He filmed before me that day. And they were there for a couple of weeks and spoke to everybody there, Boomer Esiason and Mark Chernoff. Craig was in prison during that whole filming. And when Craig got out of jail, they filmed with Craig. That's why it took a couple of weeks when he left prison to get it on HBO. But it was on a couple of weeks ago. And I think Craig did a good job. And for me, it was kind of surreal and kind of cool to be in that, considering I'm really a political newsy guy now. I'm kind of out of the sports business. And here I am in the Craig Carton documentary. I had a guy from HBO guys call and say to me, for the 30 seconds you were on, you made one of the biggest impacts on that whole piece. This is a big time executive producer at HBO. That made my day. I said, really? He said, really? You were that good. So that was a good experience too.
See, look at that. Look at that. Now you're going to take over for Bill Maher.
You have that. You have that like authority. You can like your voice is like a deep, like authoritative voice.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Well, you know what it is, guys. Listen. I make a lot of mistakes, and I admit them. Unlike Mike Francesa, I make a mistake. I admit it. I don't go back and say, "Go listen to the tape," and you replay the tape, and you really fucked up. But I say this to everybody, no matter what field you're in, and you guys are great with this too. You're both great with this. If you say something with conviction, right, you actually can prove your point even if you're wrong. How many politicians get up and lie to us every single day, and yet millions and millions of people vote for them because they say it with such conviction? They can't be lying. They can't be wrong. That's been my key. I make a lot of mistakes, but I got to tell you, you'd never know, because I'll come back tomorrow and I'll say the same thing until you believe me.
How many times did I tell you the Giants are 16-0, baby?
This guy.
They're 16-0.
Fred, dude, was it on the HBO special that Carton was like, yeah, they reached out to Francesa for this special?
The same one, Mike. Same one.
And Francesa wrote back 2 words: no chance.
No chance.
You know, guys, I didn't even know that. Look, I've had my own issues with Mike Francesa, and the New York Post documented it about 3 years ago. When Dog first left WFAN, Mike Francesa was scared to death. Guys, he wasn't nervous. He was scared to death. Wow. So it's a Sunday morning, right about the time Dog leaves. And every Sunday morning, my wife and I and my daughter, my son wasn't even born yet. He may have been a year or two. And my parents would go to the same bagel place in Boca Raton, Florida. It's about 9:30 on this one Sunday morning, going back over a decade ago. My cell phone rings and it says, Mike Francesa. I show it to my wife, Danielle. I go, Mike Francesa? What is this? Sunday morning, listen, I know you breakfast with your family. I don't want to bother you. Call me tomorrow. I got to talk to you. About what, Mike? I got to talk to you. Fine. Talk to Mike the next day. He says, here's my plan. I want to hire you and Max Kellerman. You're the emotional New York guy. Met fans love you, Giant. And Max is the analytical numbers guy, okay? Yep. He's the ESPN guy. You're the FAN guy. He goes, and this way, when I go on vacation, you two guys can fill in for me. And while I'm on the air, that is my threesome. Now, by the way, when he called me, that's when the New York Post and Daily News was talking about Iron Eagle and Bill Simmons and all these fucking names. In the meantime, he called me 30 times, guys. He spoke to my wife. I spoke to Mark Chernoff. I lost my house in Tenafly, New Jersey when I left WFAN in 2005. Believe it or not, the house was being rented. And we actually contacted the couple about renting my house back. That's how close I was to getting this job with Francesa. And then something happened. I don't know what happened, guys. I know he had 2 or 3 secret meetings with CBS. Eddie Erickson was his producer at the time. Eddie Erickson will go and document this. He will tell you this. Eddie picked him up at 6 o'clock in the morning in Manhasset and drove him to meet with Leslie Moonves and all these, Mason, all these big CBS guys. And they said, no, you know, Sid really screwed up with the IMS stuff. We can't bring him back. So instead of years later, Mike going out there and saying, listen, I tried to hire Sid, I couldn't get it done. He denies any of this ever took place. Guys, I actually had to fly in one day and meet him and Mark Chernoff. He was wearing a white pair of shorts and a pink golf shirt, I swear to God, at a diner in Astoria, Queens. And I almost lost my job in Florida because I told them I was sick for the day and they found out I lied. So all this stuff is out there, and Francesa to this day says that never happened. So of course he doesn't want to help a guy like Craig Carton. You know, listen, it was all about Mike. It was always all about Mike. God bless him. You know, he's not a bad guy. When Beningo's house burnt down, he gave him $5,000 cash, didn't want a penny back. That's the type of guy Mike is when you get him in a good moment. But for the most part, he's a jerk off. He's an arrogant jerk off, and he treats guys like Sid Rosenberg and Craig Carton the same way.
He's right.
License plate guy. You ever, Joe? You went in there on Boomer and Carton once or twice, right?
3 times. Yeah, I couldn't get I speak like Sid does. I could speak for an hour straight. I could do this. I could do that. I couldn't get a freaking word in with Carton. Not a freaking word.
No, listen, Joe, it's funny you say that because I'm also very, very close with Evan Roberts, and he's a wonderful kid and a great talent. I was honored that Joe Beningo had me on his last show on WFAN last Friday.
Yep.
And it was
I know
great.
where you're going, and he's going to get tired, but keep going.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean,
I
by the way, I gave Joe his first opportunity too. I was working with Jody McDonald doing middays, and Chernoff came to me and said, "We're considering bringing Joe from overnights to middays. Do you want to work with Beningo?" And I said, "I love Joe. I'd love to do that." So that's another guy that actually helped along the way. That's when he started his midday career, and he kept it together for 20 years, and I fucked up. But on a serious note, Evan is a really smart guy and a really good radio guy. Yep. Right. And the question is, Joe, is Craig going to run him over, or is Evan going to be allowed to do his thing? And I think most people agree with what you're thinking, which is he's going to get run over.
Yeah, I just, I listened. I'm also a Craig fan. Even though I couldn't get any more words in with him, I do think he has an incredible personality, as do you. I think when they turn on Sid Rosenberg or they turn on Craig Carton, they're turning on for a reason. They want to listen to what they have to say, and you know what? They could be talking about toilet paper in the supermarket, but they're going to tune in for it. And I don't know. The first week I was listening to Evan and Carton, I didn't get the vibe I normally get, and I believe.
Yeah,
no, I didn't either.
No, and I think Joe, most people agree with you. I know there's a this New York message board. If you're a radio junkie, you know about it. His name is Alan Sniffen. He's a dentist. He's run this thing for about 25 years, and they talk about everything in New York radio. And there was a long thread about what you're talking about, Joe. And the consensus, the overwhelming consensus was that this combination is not going to work. Look. They're both really talented guys. I love both of them. I really do. I want it to work. And if it doesn't work, neither one of those guys is going anywhere. Let's be honest.
Correct.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Listen, there's a lot of guys, Joe and Mike, out there that really thought I was coming back. And they were going to team me with Craig. That was something that Craig and I did talk about.
Actually, Mike and I talked about it. So that's pretty funny. We were like, you know who, and then we talked about it for a couple of days.
Well, if you guys said that, Joe and Mike, that actually means a lot to me because you guys are great guys, smart guys, talented guys, and in the field guys. But there's one little problem. That is, I'm on the contract at WABC, and I kind of like my job, but you know, I'm not ready yet to give up talking about the news of the day and the politics of the day to talk about Robbie Cano being suspended for a year. I'm not ready to do that just yet. But there were people who thought that me and Craig would end up working together, and that would have been quite a combination.
Hold on a second. 2 Giants get COVID today. The fight of the century between a coach and assistant coach, and this guy brings up a PED with the Mets.
You know, that's funny, Joe. You're right. You're right. But I think that, Mark Colombo is not exactly a household name. He's the offensive line coach. And the 2 guys that got the COVID, again, we're not talking about Daniel Jones we're not talking, you're talking about. So, and Robbie Cano is a big name. And look, Cano had done this before, obviously, in Seattle. And, he played better last year. He was hurt year number 1. I think Met fans were starting to think, okay, maybe this guy could really give us a pretty good season. But you're right. I'm here to talk Giant football. I've got my Elon Manning jersey on. But that's the beauty, Joe, about me. You never know. We can start talking about the Giants, and all of a sudden it'll be Donald Trump. It'll be Joe Biden. It'll be the New York Mets. It'll be some porn star. You just don't know.
That's the reason why people always tune in, man. And that's a huge compliment to you. I mean, seriously.
Thank you. It is.
Thank you, Joe.
Getting back to the Giants, you're right. It's unfortunately the long snapper and the field goal kicker, and everybody's going into these COVID thing. But the Giants are on a bye, thank God. I think the protocols will be set. I think they'll be back after the bye. But I want to talk real quick about what went down today. I heard through the grapevine. I'm not a break news type of guy because I feel like if you break news, you don't get the same info from the players and from the guys you become close with. If you break that trust, you're in trouble. So the stuff I heard, today was Judge and Colombo met last night. There's no secret that Judge was working with the O-line and taking away from his other responsibilities. He wanted his guy coming in, so he went and hired him as a consultant, which had to rub Colombo the wrong way. They met last night. Colombo was like, fuck you, basically. And Judge is like, I'm the head coach, fuck you. One FU to another. And today it finally coming to blows, completely false report. I don't even know why someone would put it out there like that. They had some words, and truth be told, when it finally comes out, it wasn't even Judge who told him that he was fired. So I'm dying to see who breaks that news, but it wasn't him.
Well, I'm glad you actually broke it down, and I know that you know this stuff, Joe and Mike. You guys actually know a lot more about the Giants than I do. I will tell you this: I have not been excited, and maybe excited is a stretch, but I've been happy about a Giant coach since the early days of time. I never liked McAdoo. I didn't like the last guy from Minnesota, Pat Shurmur. Nice guy, don't get me wrong. In fact, I'll tell you something, guys. I'm very close with Pat Halen to this day, and my little boy Gabe, who you may have seen moments ago, he's going to be 12 on Tuesday. And the Giants allowed me to take him to training camp last year before the COVID. And
I saw the pics.
You saw the pictures, right, Joe? So he was on the field with Eli Manning, and Shurmur was a sweetheart. He was a sweetheart. But I have not been excited about a Giant coach since Kaufman. I love this guy. I think this guy. Look, there is something to the Bill Belichick pedigree. There just is. Look at the job that Brian Flores is doing down in Miami. That's not an accident. That team is 6-3. That team is going to vie for a playoff spot. Tua started 3 games his whole career. He's built a nice team down there, and they think they can win. And I think guys who work for Belichick are good at doing that. I think the Giants are starting to believe in this guy. 3-7 doesn't sound good, but we're better than that. Look, the Giants could easily be 7-3. 8-2. I got news for you. This is the right guy for the job. He's not going to take any bullshit from anybody. Daniel Jones, stop turning the football over, or there'll be a new quarterback here in 2 years. I like this coach. This is the first time I'm excited about a Giant coach in probably 7 or 8 years.
So I was just talking to Joe before we got on about how everyone's buying into Judge. Different guys are, fingers are being pointed at different parts of the team, different players, but no one's really pointing at Judge because we're buying into the culture, just like you're saying. It's great. And we are, and we all are, and we get that 99% of the fan base is. But now with this new move, this Colombo move, and Joe, what do we call him? The new Digo? What do we call him? Diju? Wait, what's his name?
Oh, just call him Gooch.
Gooch. Okay, I forgot what it was. Gooch coming in. This is like the first time that Judge is sticking out his neck, like making a really kind of big move.
Yeah,
out his neck.
To be honest with you, Mike, I mean, I look at it a couple ways. Going back to what you said, Sid, McAdoo, good football mind. Shurmur, good football mind. Judge, good football coach.
Bang. You just nailed it. Those guys both had great offensive minds, but they weren't leaders of men. When I sat with Pat Shurmur, Joe, I didn't feel like this is a leader of men. This guy, Judge, he's a leader of men. And look, no one's going to know. Daniel Jones gets sacked every play anyway. So it's not like you're going to be sitting at home going, "Oh my God, what happened to the offensive line?" They are going to
go. They are going to do that. They are going to do that. They come out everywhere.
It's true.
Listen, it's not like, when Jim Boswell decided years ago, I'm taking the play calling. You guys may remember that. Sean Payton was there. I mean, Sean fucking Payton. I'm taking over the play calling. And what did we do? We beat the Vikings 41-0. I had the over 41.5, by the way. And then we lost the Super Bowl to Baltimore. But that was a big move. That was, it was in the press, and he called the plays. Firing your offensive line coach for a quarterback that gets sacked 3 or 4 times a week is not going to be a point of discussion for the fans. Maybe Paul Schwartz will write one article about it. So this is not, to me at least, Mike and Joe, it is a big football move. There's no doubt. But it's a little more minutia than the average fan really cares about. This is not him doing something huge in the media.
No, Mike, getting back to what you said, I think that Gooch, since he already spent 2 years with Judge, I think that Judge wanted him anyway. But what happened was bringing over Garrett made things a little more simple for Garrett hiring Colombo.
Garrett's team, Garrett's guy.
Just works along his way, right?
Yeah.
And if things were running smooth, I mean, we could say that for anything. If things are running smooth, no one loses their jobs, everything is perfect. But I believe that this whole time, you're looking at it as, one mess up, I'm getting my guy. And Judge, you don't mess with Judge. Judge will pull the trigger no matter what. He's not the normal, suit and tie. Let's wait to the end of the year for someone to lose their job. You're not doing your job, you're being replaced. That's it.
Listen, and again, I find it refreshing. Haven't been excited for a Giant coach, like I said, guys, in 7 or 8 years. I think he's the right guy for the job. Time will tell. He's got 10 games in. That's it. And again, they're a 300 football team, 300 guys. How many times have you heard a guy in the media go, I love this guy when a team is 3-7, but I see things every week. I really do.
True.
And they improve in certain spots where they were not good at the week before, even in a loss. And to me, that says the coach is doing something right. So we'll see. We got a good shot here. You know, Dallas, they got nothing, 2 wins. They got nothing. Washington, 2 wins. Alex Smith, God bless him. What a great story. 400 yards last week. They got nothing. And I got to tell you, Carson Wentz, I haven't seen a guy get that bad that quick in a long time. No, seriously, guys, 2 years ago, this guy was he could have been a league MVP. He gets hurt. Nick Foles wins the Super Bowl. I watch these Eagle games. He's awful. He doesn't come close to hitting wide receivers. He doesn't come close. So there is no reason we can't win this division.
Hey, first of all, we're winning the division, number one. Number two, let me ask you a personal question in regards to football. You have a bad team. Are you a draft pick guy, or are you a screw that, win out as many games you can, draft?
No. That's a Jet fan, Joe. That's a Jet fan. I say this all the time. Sports is about one thing, guys. And I used to get killed for this in Miami because I love Dan Marino. I think Dan Marino is one of the 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time, but he never won anything. So to me,
argument.
It's a failure. You never won anything. You could have 95,000-yard passing seasons, and you could throw 18,000 touchdowns and be on Monday Night Football with Don Shula every week. If you don't win championships, you've done nothing. So I don't want to hear 8-8. I don't want to hear 7-9. I would much rather go 0-16 2 consecutive years and get the 2 best players in college football year number 3. When I see a team that's 1-7, and I have fans calling up going, we got to win this game. Why?
Okay.
I mean, like the Knicks won a game last year. I'm like, why? Instead of number 8, we could be number 2. Mediocrity sucks.
Mediocrity, it sucks. I am wholeheartedly disagreeing with you. I'm going to tell you why. I am in agreement that if my team sucks and I have 0 or 1 win on the board, and I'm a game or 2 away from getting my franchise player, my franchise quarterback, I'm in 100% agreement with you. There is no way you could give up on getting that Eli Manning if you're a game out. I could not care less, though, Sid, about the Chase Young Bowl. I did want to win that game. I was happy to win the game. So what? They got Chase Young. We got Thomas to stop him for the next 10 years. And that's that. And then now a new year comes, and maybe the Giants do get that pass rusher. There's so many different ways to look at that. So,
listen, you made a great point, Joe. And you're right. There are years, not every year is a Trevor Lawrence available, okay? So there are those years where, yes, you're right. Maybe you're better off winning that football game because you're not thrilled with Chase Young. But as an overall question to your answer, sports is about winning championships. It's not about 8-8 seasons. And if it means you got to go 1-15, like if I'm the Jets right now and Adam Gase is saying we're not tanking it, first of all, they're not tanking it. They're just awful. They can't win. They're not trying to lose. They can't win.
They don't know how to win.
They don't. And they're a bad team. There's not a lot of talent there, and he's going to lose his job anyway. But they're better off going 0-16. And, you know, maybe you can trade Sam Darnold. I don't think Trevor Lawrence will come out. If the Jets are the number 1 pick, I don't think he'll come out. I think he'll stay at Clemson and try to win the Heisman.
You absolutely nailed it with if you're the Jets. If I'm a Jet fan, please, I'm already making my Trevor Lawrence jersey. I do agree that he stays, and I agree that he stays because of COVID. He missed his chance. They're not undefeated. He wants to prove it again. I'm in so much agreement with you, and God, I'm so happy that my father did not make me a Jets fan.
Well, guys, I got a good story for you. By the way, if they get Justin Fields, the Jets, that's not bad either. That's not bad. But if you don't know my history, guys, I was a Jet fan. My dad and I would go to Shea Stadium as a little boy, and I loved Joe Namath. I'll make it a very quick story. I was about 7 or 8 years old. It's in my book. You can still buy it. You're Wrong and You're Ugly on Amazon.com. It's cheaper than a slice of pizza. So we go to A&S department store in New York City. Again, I'm 7 or 8 years old. And they have this little bowl on one of the cologne desks. And you drop your name in, and you have a chance to be the mascot of the week for the New York Jets, Joe and Mike. Now, at the time, they've got Emerson Boozer and Don Maynard and Joe Namath. They were a bad team. That was a 69 team years later. In fact, Weeb Eubank, the head coach who won the Super Bowl, had left and given his son-in-law, Charlie Winter, who was a loser, the job. And the Jets were a bad football team. I think they were 1-5 that year. Anyway, out of millions of entries at A&S Department Store in New York City, little Sidney Ferris Rosenberg out of Brooklyn won. I won. And I'm sitting at my dinner table with my mommy and daddy and sister on a Wednesday night in Brooklyn, and the phone rings. We had a phone on the wall with a rotary dial. Yeah. And they said, hey, it's a New York Jets. Congratulations. And Sidney's going to come to the Rams-Jet game on Sunday. In my life, I could have died that day. Long story short, Charlie Winter decided the team was 1-5, and little bucktooth Sidney Ferris Rosenberg, asthmatic and all, would be a distraction to the Jets. And instead, they sent me a signed football and a Letterman's jacket signed by Joe Namath. I still have it. It's in my room right now, guys. And I remember saying to my dad at the dinner table, I was crying. He said, nah, you got a Joe Namath jacket. I said, Daddy, what's the other team in New York? He said, the Giants. I was 7 years old. I said, from this moment on, I'm a Giant fan. Wow. And I changed my allegiance. And I have been as big a Giant fan the last 47 years as anybody you know.
Wow. That is an awesome story.
By the way, and Joe and Mike, I got to tell you something. I became very close with Joe Namath because the company I talked to you about, Sportsline USA, where I started my career with Craig Carton, Joe Namath was one of the original starters of that company. Him and Mike Schmidt. So Namath and I became very close. He loves that story. He apologizes every time I see him for Charlie Winter, but I was a Jet fan, and then I changed it.
Dude, that's an awesome story.
That is an amazing story. Joe Namath is on our short list for one of the next roasts as the man of the roast.
That would be great.
We will be in touch with you about that. All right. Quick trivia question before we let Sid Rosenberg go. LT.
I don't want to go. I like hanging out with you guys.
Speaking of drafts, 81 NFL draft.
Okay.
Giants pick number 2. The Jets pick number 3, by the way. I didn't even realize that.
Right.
Who went first? Who went instead of the great Lawrence Taylor?
Well, listen, I don't claim, don't give me any hints. I don't claim to be, Bill Mazer or Mike Francesa.
Bill Mazer, I love Bill Mazer.
But if I remember correctly, I think it was a Heisman Trophy Award winner out of South Carolina, a running back named George Rogers.
Very correct. Very good.
That's correct. And he was starred right there. I could see him now on the George Michael Sports Machine. Here he goes.
I used to love that show, Joe. Let me tell you something. Before they got LT, I remember, look, I tell you, I'm embarrassed to say this, guys, because Phil Simms is a dear friend. And I know guys exaggerate in this business. He really is a dear friend. But I was a Scott Bruner guy. And
so was
I loved him.
So was I. Number 12, baby.
Loved him. And when the Giants, Joe, played that playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles, the game where Beasley Reese was on crutches in the back of the end zone. Yep. And forget about George Rogers. And before we had Joe Morris running for 1 billion yards and O.J. Anderson and Rodney Hampton, one of my favorite Giant acquisitions ever in those early days was number 26. We got him from the Houston Oilers. His name was Rob Carpenter. And I loved him. And I got to tell you, he never fumbled the football. Never.
Yeah, until freaking Chicago.
And they put on the fucking screen, the guy never fumbles the ball.
We're going deep with some 1980s. We got some
1980s. Hold on. I'm 16. I don't know, 15, 16. My dad lets me go with my next door neighbor who's 18 to Chicago in 85 to go to the game. The Giants are driving and Carpenter puts the ball on the carpet. And they never look back. They lost.
Well, Sean Landetta didn't help us that day either. Sean turned out to be a great punter. But But listen, those were exciting days. Because I remember when they first got Simms and guys were throwing the football to guys like Johnny Missler and Mike Freedy and Tom Mulledy and Gary Shirk.
88. I love it.
And then all of a sudden, Tom Mulledy and Gary Shirk. But then all of a sudden, those names changed, right? To Mark Bavaro and Lionel Manuel and Phil Simms and Joe Morris. And it was really an unbelievable evolution from the Ray Perkins team to the Bill Parcells teams, which to me, and I love Coughlin. I talked about it. Eli Manning, I'll always love him. I thought he was overrated. If you could be overrated and win 2 Super Bowls and throw for 50,000 yards, I thought Eli was overrated.
No problem.
But those Giant teams of the 80s, those are my favorite teams. I love those guys. And to this day, I'm still friends with
LT, though. I want to hear about LT. We have a couple.
86 Giants after that debacle in 85. That was probably the last time And think about it. That was probably the last time the Giants were favored in our whole lives, other than 2008.
Yeah, well, do you remember how they started that season, though, Joe?
What, the 31-28 Dallas?
Yeah, they lost to Dallas. Very good. Then they won 14 out of 15 games. Only Seattle beat them after that.
They went bananas, and the Bobby Johnson, 4th to 17, and
19.
all that whole year.
That's not too much,
man. As a Giants fan.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I can't. Whatever.
That Bobby Johnson play, Joe, against Minnesota, maybe the greatest Giant play of all time. That was just a huge play. But I'll tell you a quick LT story, and then I'll let you guys go. So I had an agent by the name of Mark Lepselter. You guys know Leps. He still represents Joe Beningo, Tiki Barber, Brandon Tierney, all these guys.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So
he's a great guy.
Great guy. So he had Lawrence. So Lawrence and I got to know each other through Leps. We would hang out, Super Bowls and parties, and LT and I had a lot in common, obviously. A lot, maybe more than I wanted to, but we did.
I saw you at LT's a couple of times at the restaurant.
Yeah. Oh, I was there a couple of times. So now it's the year is 2005. Okay. And I go to some party somewhere. I went to Cleveland, and I was doing a steel cage match. I was doing the announcing in between fights. In fact, Jared Bunch, the former Giant running back, fought Michael Westbrook, the former Redskin wide receiver. And it was at Cleveland State University. I'll never forget this.
Oh, my God.
And the night was over. It was a Friday night, and I spent the next 2 days getting high. I was supposed to come home Saturday, and I never got home until Sunday night. And I called Mark Chernoff that Sunday night, and I said, listen, I don't know how to say this to you, but my drug problem has come back. It's bad. I attempted suicide this weekend. That's a true story. My daughter saved my life. And I have to go to rehab. So I don't know what you want to do with me. Chernoff and Lee Davis said, we love you. You're our guy. You go away for 30 days. You come back in 30 days. Your job will be here with Imus and with Joe Beningo. That's how great that was. So I get home that Sunday night, and I can't find a rehab. So Monday morning, I found this place in New Jersey. It was called Sunrise House. I called them. 3-hour drive. I lived in Tenafly, New Jersey. Perfect. Out of bed. Sid, we know who you are. We love you. We're big fans. No beds. Can't get you in. I called up Shelter. I say, Mark, if I don't get to rehab today, I may die. It was that bad, guys. I'm not being over dramatic. He said, call Lawrence. I said, I kind of know LT a little bit, but not that well. I'm going to give him a call. And so I called Lawrence Taylor. And I said, Lawrence, I know you've been here before. I got a 18-month-old baby upstairs and a wife who I love dearly. And I tried to kill myself on Saturday. And I'm really in a bad place. And if I don't get into a rehab today, I can't promise tomorrow. And I said, I called Sunrise House because I know you went there, because Lawrence went there. And they said there were no beds. And he said, I swear to God, he said, Sid, give me 5 minutes. Sid, give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, guys, you could have timed it. I got a call from the head of that place. And they said, and I quote, get in your car now. We got you a bed. And I called Bob Raceman, the New York Daily News, and I said, look, I'm on the way to rehab. You're not going to hear me for the next 30 days. You're going to hear Beningo talk about me, Imus. You're not going to hear me. But I want you to know, for all you guys that motherfuck Lawrence Taylor all the time about his drugs and his women, he just saved my life. And Raceman put that in the New York Daily News when I went to rehab. That's a true story. He actually saved my life back in 2005.
Amazing. Amazing.
Welcome to True Blue with Mike Viv and LPG.